Okay, so I want to talk a little bit first about how we contribute to telling Rotary's story. We educate and inspire audiences by using Rotary's heritage assets to tell the story of its past, present, and future. And we do this in a number of ways. We create content throughout our
Stephanie,
media.
we are seeing the slideshow thing again.
Say again?
We are seeing the slideshow resume
Oh,
again.
what the heck? Okay, you know what? Hold on one second. I think I'm doing this wrong.
Now it's back.
Okay.
No, now it's back.
Okay, so every time I click out, yeah. All right, I got it. So let's see, we create content throughout our media that honors our past and embraces our future, and we try to provide inspiration to readers. We explore how Rotary has developed and built on our core values to become the organization it is today. Our content celebrates our long history of success and inspires readers to continue doing great things. And this content really supports our larger communications goals of increasing awareness and understanding of Rotary. As part of communications, we are on board with all of what our communications teams are doing in terms of public awareness, and also just educating our members to really be inspired and excited about what we've accomplished. In this content, we showcase our materials from the archives. You can see on the lower left picture, that's actually a new offering that's online. It's an online history timeline that we were able to get published a few months ago. And it includes information, it includes photos, it includes, I believe, a video or two from our archives and some audio. We also communicate through exhibits and visitor experiences. You can see on the top photo, that's actually a picture of the lobby at Rotary headquarters in Evanston. We overhauled all of our exhibits at the headquarters between 2019 and 2022. And through these exhibits, we educate members and the general public about Rotary and hopefully inspire visitors to action. The lobby now is very public facing because anyone in the community can actually come in. The Rotary headquarters doesn't only house Rotary, it actually houses other offices like dentists. Actually, my dentist is in the building. So we do get community members coming through, and we want to make sure that we leverage that opportunity to talk about Rotary. And we are also part of the team that develops and offers tours. So if you ever come up to Evanston or Chicago, make sure that you come visit, and we'll give you a tour. We also communicate through information requests. So this is what Kevin was talking about when he contacted us to get information. We get about 700 requests for information a year. Most of this is from Rotarians. We do get some requests from the general public. And since we have access to the primary record, which is the archives, we're able to provide accurate information and background documents to support that. We do research and fact checking. So this is also for internally. We will help our communications colleagues do some research and fact checking as needed for content, or for, I need to know the history of a program because, we need to talk about it about changing it or things like that. So we can research the history of our traditions, our programs. We do historical analysis and can summarize, and we do fact checking. And then also we provide access to these assets. So a big portion of what we do is just trying to get information, but also assets out to people who are looking for this information. And we can provide digital files of archival materials, which could be scans of historic photographs or board decisions. We also do accommodate research visits. We don't get very many people to visit us, but we can accommodate that, where people can access assets in person. We digitize a lot of our analog collections. We are working on getting through digitizing all of our old video content, partly for access, but also because old video, especially like VHS and tapes like that, are not going to last much longer. So we digitize so that we can show this media. And then also through platforms like the Brand Center, which hopefully you've been to. And another example is Rotary Magazine on Google. And both of those examples is just where we have Rotary assets and information available. So in all of these ways, we're leveraging our materials, our assets, and using them to tell Rotary's story. Okay. Yeah, resume, sorry. All right, so we can't do any of this without the assets and the materials. So a major part of our responsibility is to actively preserve Rotary's heritage by building and maintaining an archives that accurately and effectively documents Rotary and can be used to tell its story. So the archives has all sorts of media. We have documents, publications, photos, audio, visual recordings, like video and moving images and artifacts from the entire history of Rotary and actually before. We do have some early photos of Paul Harris, so it even goes before the 1905 start. It's a centralized repository of these assets. We have analog, so hard copy, but also more and more we have just digital. Mostly what we receive nowadays is digital, so we're working on making sure that both the hard copy or digital assets are preserved. This includes, as I said, documents, publications, images, lots and lots of images, audio, moving images, artifacts, and we also archive Rotary's web properties. So there are tools out there for us to do that so that we can keep track of how we've talked about Rotary on our websites. And a lot of unique content is on the websites in the form of stories. So we want to make sure that we capture that. And we have a collections policy that guides our activities. So we have sort of it's a policy that really kind of talks about what we'll collect and how that guides all of our decision making about that. Okay. See if I can. There we go. Okay, so I think the big question is, how do we get all of this stuff? So one of the main ways we acquire, we're in institutional archives. So we're really collecting what the Secretariat creates. So the headquarters and all of the business units, we create all sorts of documents every day. And this is the material that we acquire into the archives. This includes, all of the board minutes and decisions, trustee minutes, committees, all of photography, video that we create, all of the media we create, and things like that. So we run a program called the Records Program. So you may have encountered that in your business life, records management, where we basically talk with all the business units and determine what do they have and how long do we need to retain it. And then we, from that, are able to identify the things that make sense for the archives. So most of the stuff we require is from the staff and from the Secretariat. Because the business activities for Rotary are documented in the work that we do every day. So let's see, we actively work with all business units to ensure that the most important Rotary assets are identified, but then once they're identified, making sure that they're actually transferred to us and then preserved in the archives. We do also accept donations, though not frequently. We evaluate every offer of donation and accept really only those items that are truly unique or fill a gap in the collection. So this example, the picture on the left is actually of our archive storage space. So was the one before. Let me see if I can go back without. Yeah, so this is just a close-up of one of our storage areas. And this is our storage area at the headquarters. And the picture on the right, the lower right, is an example of a donation that we received. I don't remember what, it's been at least 5 or 6 years. This is a page from a scrapbook that was donated to us about a Rotary member's trip to the 1937 convention in Nice via a transatlantic ship. So it's really kind of interesting. it doesn't necessarily, document like Rotary business decisions, but it really does show how members would have engaged with each other and you know, engaged with the convention at that time. So this is just one page. The whole scrapbook is filled with business cards of like how they met with other people on the ship, and so it's kind of fun. So it's just one example. And every donation we have specific forms and documentation so that donation is a legal transaction to the organization. Okay. All right. Oops. Every time I click on this, resume. All right. So, we have all of these materials, and then our job is to make sure that these materials will last and that they will be accessible. So physical materials, I showed you a picture of our storage. They're stored in temperature and humidity controlled environments. Our main storage is in the lower level of One Rotary Center, which is headquarters here in Evanston. The staff is trained in best practices for storage and handling of all types of materials. We also collect digital files, which I mentioned, which is actually almost more complicated than physical materials, because I'm sure you've all encountered files that don't open after 20 years. And so we need to make sure that we're migrating to new file formats or file formats that have less tendency to get out of date. There are certain formats that are sort of standards, and we make sure our goal is to make sure that these files will be accessible in the long term. There's a whole industry in archives around digital preservation, and we employ a lot of those standards and tools. And then we set up systems and manage systems to make sure that we can find our assets. We organize and document everything in the collections. We use multiple tools for this. We do have what are called finding aids, which are really just documents that give you an overview of a collection and a list of folders. We manage an archives database. We also manage digital asset management. So the picture here is actually our digital asset management system called a DAM, which is specifically for individual digital files. This is used currently for all of our visual assets. So this has all of our photography and video, current and historical. So all current photography and video goes into here. And then as we digitize anything that's analog, it goes in here. And then we do a lot of metadata and writing descriptions and tagging to make sure that the assets can be found, not just by us, but also the rest of the staff. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit. Let's see. I wanted to kind of give you, there was some interest in like sort of what we have in the archives. So I wanted to sort of share some ideas of stories we're able to tell with the archives, with showing items as we go. So we'll show you a few examples. So as I'm sure you know, in 1905, Paul Harris and 3 others formed the first Rotary Club. So we have lots of pictures of the first 4, which is the picture on the lower right. Paul Harris is on the right. We have this call for a convention of Rotary clubs. So this was where in 1910, the creation of our association. So 1905 was the Rotary Club of Chicago, but the association that really formed Rotary International was created in 1910. So we're able to both tell this story because we have the original documents, but also illustrate it in fun ways. Okay. This is black for a reason. Hopefully this will work. So the Rotary Foundation obviously was where we turn ideas into action. We are able to fund a lot of projects and programs through the foundation. And this was started in 1917. The idea was started in 1917 when Arch Klump, the outgoing president at the time, talked about creating an endowment. So this is what became the Rotary Foundation. We don't have many. This happened at the convention in 1917 in Atlanta. Maybe some of you were at the 2017 convention in Atlanta where we celebrated 100 years. And we don't have a lot of items to illustrate the 1917 convention, but we do have some. We have photos and we have this silent film. So I'm going to try to play it and see if this works. And it's silent, so. Can you see that? Thumbs up.
Stephanie, because you don't have your PowerPoint in play mode, it may not play.
Oh, it's not playing?
No.
Okay, hold on. I do have it in play mode. I'm confused. What am I sharing? Shoot, hold on. Oh, here. Now can you see it?
No, if you go up to where it says slideshow and click on that.
Oh, where am I? Okay, sorry. I'm sharing, to be honest.
Yeah, you're sharing, but you're sharing your screen and not the slideshow itself. In play mode.
Like, do you see my notes?
Yeah, we can see your notes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sharing the wrong thing.
That's okay.
All right. From the beginning.
You want to do from current slide?
Yeah, but it's sharing on my. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Sorry, you shouldn't be seeing my notes necessarily. Let me try again. Screen 2. There we go. Let's try that.
There we go. Yep.
Sorry, I did not realize you were seeing that. Okay, let's go back a second.
No worries.
You see full screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you were looking at something really small before. All right. Well, let me just walk through these real fast so you can see pictures. That I was sharing. Okay. All right. Let's try that. Does that now work?
Much better.
Yay. All right. Sorry about that. So that is just a silent film, one of many that we have in the archives, which I think is kind of fun to watch. A couple of other milestones, the council on legislation, we have all sorts of records around the council, photos, but also the legislation, the actual documents and reports with all of the decisions. Whoops. Notable decisions that the council has made in terms of polio as in 1980, women to join Rotary worldwide, Rotary Act redefined pretty recently. I'm going to see if this works better. Okay. We have a lot of assets around Interact, and in 1962 is when Interact really began in this Rotary-wide program. So we have some cool photos of Interact through the years. Same with Rotaract, begins in 1968 as a program to promote Rotary to college students. You can see the older Rotaract Club logo.
I'm losing you again. Can you start at the beginning of this slide again?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, so Rotaract begins in 1968 as a program to promote Rotary to college students. It later, very recently, has just changed to member type. So you can see a photo from 1970 here with the Rotaract Club car wash. the North Carolina the Rotaract Club of University of North Carolina, Charlotte is actually the first Rotaract club chartered in 1968. We don't have any pictures of it, but we know that fact. We also have artifacts. So some of our artifacts can also help illustrate some of our stories. This is one that just includes the motto, service above self. This is from 1928 convention. And then this is, I'm sure you've heard the story of one of the earliest projects was in Chicago, the Rotary Club of Chicago, creating a public toilet. So this document here is a 1907 meeting program where they actually met with local civic organizations to discuss the need for public toilets. We don't know exactly when they were built, but we have this document telling us when they started talking about it. And then this is kind of one of my favorite examples of using the archives to illustrate a major historical milestone for Rotary. In our history of ending polio with Rotary's involvement, our first humanitarian, our 3H grant, supported a multi-year project to immunize children in the Philippines starting in 1979. So the first project, this was the first 3H grant, and it was related to polio. And Rotary members had previously supported polio through smaller efforts, but this is the first time that Rotary International is funding a large effort. And on screen on the left, you'll see representatives from Rotary and the Philippine government signing an agreement for the project. This seated second from the left in the blue blazer, that's James Bomar, who was the president at the time. We have several photos of them signing this. We also have video of them signing this. And then on the right, we have the agreement with their signatures. And in addition, we have a video of the first drops given by Bomar. And we also have an oral history with him from, I think, the 90s, where he reminisces about this trip and his role in this event. So all of those artifacts together tell a really compelling story and really allow us to, do some really great storytelling and illustration with the archives. Okay, so we have a list of resources to help you learn about Rotary's history and share your story. I'll go through these in a second. We're also developing some tools to help clubs think about how to preserve their own history and to tell their story of impact in their communities. We really want clubs to be able to feel comfortable telling their own story of impact and talk about their own history in their communities. So these are just some resources. If you have questions about Rotary's history or our archives, we have a dedicated email, history@rotary.org. We have stories and a timeline online at rotary.org/history. We have the magazine is online. We actually have all of the convention proceedings online. And the Brand Center is a really great resource with more current photography and logos and templates and video. But we will actually be starting to add some historic photos there too, but really more general about milestones of Rotary history. And then if you ever do want to come visit, there's rotary.org/visit to tell you about how to do that. I can actually put these in the chat if that's helpful, just so you have the list and can look at them later. Okay. Since I'm having such trouble sharing, I'm going to share.
Well, thank you for your patience with us.
A couple of questions, Stephanie.
Yes.
First of all, you may have said this, I just didn't catch it, but are any of the digital assets available for anyone to review now online?
Yeah, so yes. A lot of our digital assets are in content, so you can go to our stories to read about history and then see the assets kind of in context.
Okay.
The Brand Center is another place, though, that there's actually assets online to review and download. There's not a lot of historic assets there right now, and you won't find like board minutes and things like that, but there's photography. And we're going to be adding more historic photography to that.
Fantastic. Can you share the link to those in the chat? That'd be great.
Let me find my PowerPoint.
Stephanie, could we, would you mind sharing your slides so we can put them in the newsletter, since some of this was a little hard to hear? Just email them to me or Kevin?
Yeah, I can probably do that. I think that's fine. I put the I put the URLs in the chat.
Okay, great. And I have a follow-up question. I know you were talking about your records management system. Do you guys have a record retention schedule that clubs can or should use?
Oh, that's a great question. No, but we can advise. We don't have one that's specific to clubs because it's it's legal stuff, right? So in a lot of various countries are going to be different. But one of the things that we're working on developing at minimum is kind of a tool to help advise on what historical things we think you should keep.
Yeah,
so maybe not the things that you should probably destroy, which is kind of is more dealt with usually it's national law, but I think there might be some state laws too that can advise on that, like tax documents, financial things like that. But from a historical perspective, there's definitely things that each club generally create that kind of form a standard list. And there's actually a magazine article that I think we have a PDF of that I could forward to you. That is, we're going to, it was published probably almost 8 years ago. So it's really only about, it doesn't touch on digital all that much, which really nowadays it needs to. And we're going to work on expanding that and having that as a tool to provide to clubs when they ask. We're trying to develop sort of a learning topic in the learning center that will include that. So, things like about your events and about your projects and photos, anything that sort of shows impact and also business decisions, those are the things that typically you keep in an archives.
We have a lot of historical information about our club, which was chartered in 1948. I mean, we've got member directories and our original charter and things like that we would love to preserve, but really have no idea how to go about preserving those.
Yeah. Meeting minutes are a good thing to retain. Again, a lot, the meeting minutes newsletters really show sort of your growth over time and business decisions and what the club has decided, and then sort of like more of the event type of things or programs, things that you do in the community that really shows your impact to the community, and photography and things like that. You'll notice that I didn't really spell this out, but hopefully it was clear. We don't really collect club records. A, there's just many clubs, but B, we want that information to stay in the community, because if someone's researching the community, it really should be there.
So quick question for you then. If we have kind of a relationship with a university that maintains, is that something you would recommend that we kind of work with to preserve our own records?
Yes. University, a local historical society, local library, like depends on what's in your community. Sometimes if there isn't a historical society, the public library might have a historical collection. So it kind of depends on, what's available. And what's interest. And they can also help you at least help you kind of determine sort of some of the stuff that you might want to keep versus not keep. And again, I think I've listed a lot of the top ones: board minutes, event flyers. It gets more complicated when all you have is a website. Like we use a tool to crawl our website, you know, but all of the other documents are fairly, it's fairly, I don't want to say easy, but you can maintain them and, you know, make sure they're backed up if they're digital, things like that. But I will find this PDF tool. I think I have it somewhere. I'm just gonna dig it up. That we extracted from the magazine and sent that to you as just a.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's more about physical stuff, but it does talk about the types of things to think about retaining. Good start.
Anybody else have questions? Matt, do you have any questions?
Yes, yes, definitely. No question.
Yeah.
Stephanie, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we will be making a donation to the Rotary Foundation in your name, in our gratitude for your presentation and your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No.
I am actually very technically savvy, but for some reason,
Well, that makes one of us.
It happens all the time.
Zoom has been having that problem all week.
Really?
Across the board.
They said Zoom's been having that problem all
I've
week.
had it UNCC,
Wow.
the whole thing.
That's
Interesting.
I think Zoom's got a bug.
I don't know if you heard that, but one of our members just said something is going on with Zoom. And he was saying that there have been issues all week. He's seen it in a number of other settings.
I think it was me, but that's okay. That helps. That makes
That's our story and we're sticking to it.
There you go.
Thank you again. We
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much, we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You.
Bye, good to see you. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay.